and Jeff Bezos uses a similar concept that he calls regret minimization. But all these Will and Jeff, what they were really talking about was the mathematical concept of dynamic optimization. And we used to sit down and do math problems where there were literally formulas and equations to determine the optimal path based on where you want to be at the end. And so really for you, I would encourage you to like do some dynamic optimization in your life. Like if you are 20, I want you to imagine where you want to be at 40 and then ask yourself, where do I need to be at 20 to be where I need to be at 40? Or if you are 50 and you want to be in a certain place when you're 80. Maybe when you're 80, you want to look back on your life and be happy about your life. You don't want to feel like you wasted your life. Well, you have to work your way backward and sort of efficiently understand what to do with your time and your energy that's going to really get you to where you want to get to. Because what I believe most people do is they don't do that. They don't have enough consciousness to even visualize the next 5 years, let alone the next 10, 20, or 30 years. And this is a huge mistake. This is a huge, huge mistake because what happens is that the future keeps sneaking up on you. The future will sneak up on you like, boo, like you're 40. Boo, you're not cool anymore. Boo, you're old now. Oh, you got arthritis, right? And it just pops up on you like, wait a minute, no, that's not supposed to happen. I'm the cool 25-year-old. No, you're not. They're calling you ma'am and sir now. Now you're 35. Now you're older. Or now you're like, no, wait, hold on. I was young and sexy. I was grown and sexy. I'm not, no, now you're grandma. Now all the kids, now you got teenage grandkids. You don't know. Remember a Cameo and Word Up and all that? Like that's a Morris Day and the time, and those days are gone. Like that's not interesting anymore to most people. That's like old school stuff. Or your favorite artist is now performing at the oldies concert. And so really time just does that to us, and that lack of time consciousness also translates into where we end up financially and stuff like that. Like literally, here's what I actually mentioned. When I saw people were a little bit upset when I said that a lot of people, there are millions of slaves in America. They call them employees. I kind of just said, to be honest with you, I made the first point that working for someone because you want to is different from working for someone because you have to. But then I also said if every parent just bought $50 worth of stock for their child from the time they were born, no one would ever have to work for anybody. None of you would have to work for anyone. That's similar to the $5 a day plan, except it's a little bit more. So maybe over 20 years, instead of it being $100,000, you'd have 130, 140,000, depending on what the market does, if the historical trends were to continue. And so to me, a person that's got 100, $200,000 in the bank doesn't really ever have to go to work. They have options. And I say, so when I was explaining to these young guys about working for people and not working for people, I said, look, I don't want you to think I'm telling you that everybody needs to quit their job. I just want you to have options. I never want you to be trapped because when we work with our therapists, in case you guys don't know, we have the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School, and I'm very proud of this because you won't find this anywhere. Harvard isn't doing this. No HBCUs doing this, not for the Black community anyway. And what we've determined is that part of the reason that there's so much despair and depression and anxiety in the Black community is because people are stuck economically. They are going to jobs that they hate. That's where you experience most of your racism. They got us focused on police shootings, but you know what? Calvin McWilliams, I don't think Calvin's really ever he's not in a situation where he might get shot by a cop. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's not like they're just running through with AK-47s killing thousands of Black people. It's not systematic execution. It's one situation. Like, okay, this guy, something happened and he's a suspect, and again, these are things that are important for sure, not dismissing that at all, but what I look at is the bigger picture, the systematic elements that are destroying the community, the systematic things, right? So if I go and I interview 10 Black people and I say, how many of you have been shot by a cop? Very few of you. In fact, let's try it right now. How many of you have ever been shot at by a police officer? Give me a yes. If a cop has ever pulled out his strap and said, I'm about to take you out. Did that happen to you, Natasha? Latoya, you ever had a popo roll up on you, 5-0, with the gun, with James, Dr. Watts, anybody? How many of y'all? I'm looking, I just need one. I need one person who can say, okay, wait. Michael says, Sherry said, I see yes. Sherry said, oh, wow, okay, that's okay. I'm sorry. That's terrible. All right. But I see a lot of no's, right? Okay, I see a lot of no's. But let me ask you another question. How many of you have ever had a racist boss? How many of you have ever been at a job where you felt like the white people were getting more opportunities than you? How many of you have ever been in a situation where you worked harder than the white bitch down the hall and she got the promotion and you didn't? And I say the white bitch down the hall because that's I've heard black women say that that old bitch, right? Like, how many of you have ever, been in situations where you were the one black guy and you got fired on your day off and you still don't know what happened, or you apply for the job and you showed up with your resume and your little degree from Brown University and they still didn't want you and you don't know and they didn't explain it to you. That this I'm raising my hand because that's what happened to me. I what they do in academia, and I was very well trained. I did everything right. I was good at what I did. I mean, I was the only black man on the planet to get a PhD in finance in 2002. So if you believe, or woman, there was no black African American woman or man that year. So if you believe what Gen Xers were fed, you believe that I could write my own ticket. You would believe that that I would just be like the number one draft pick. Like I could go straight to Harvard and I'd be at the top of the because all these schools are like, we were looking for qualified black people, and I was qualified. I was trained by some of the best people in the world. A lot of my faculty members on my dissertation committee all studied at the University of Chicago, which is the Vatican of finance. That's where most of the ideas that drive the economy like came out of Chicago. So these was just bad dudes, right? I had to really work hard to impress them enough to get them to sign off on my dissertation. And what would happen is that once I got a little bit political, like again, if I just sort of fit in and just said, okay, you know what? Um, I'm gonna just strip away every piece of who I am, everything that matters to me, in terms of my community and my people. If I let all that go, leave the Negroes behind, then sure, I think I could have rolled straight to the top. I think I could have been brought right in. This is that false diversity. This is why I don't have a lot of faith in DEI and all that. I'm not saying I support it. I'm not anti-affirmative action because I benefited from it, but I think it's a problematic short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution because what most institutions want when they say they want diversity is they really don't want true diversity. They really don't want you coming in with a whole host of different ideas that are going to question the foundation of the cultural norms of that space. Remember, a lot of economics is culture. So they don't want you coming in there and saying, God, we need to change this and change that. And this thing y'all been doing for 100 years, that's just wrong and bad. They don't want that. What they want is they need you to celebrate the fact that they're going to accept you despite the fact that you're black. Like you're already on thin ice. You're already not one of us. You're not like us. You're not like us. You're not like us. So we're gonna give you this job, and you better be grateful, and you better fit in, and you better just. And the more you speak in a way that we can connect to, the more you speak in a way that we understand, the more we're gonna celebrate you because we're really happy to have the black token because then we can tell everybody we're not racist because we'll put the black guy on every brochure and whatever, right? That's kind of what sort of happens. And so I wasn't really that guy. I didn't fit very well. I don't assimilate too good. I'm not so good at fitting into groups. Just it's the bias in how I was raised. I was raised to sort of do what you want to do. And so the more I was showing that side of myself, the more that I would, apply for jobs. And what they would say is at first they'd get very excited and they say, "Oh my gosh, you're so good. We'd love to have you." And then they would Google me, right? And then when they Google me, they see some video of me on CNN angrily talking about a black man who was killed or speaking about racism in America or whatever. And then they say, oh, and then they'd email me something polite and they'd say, we found that you weren't a good fit. And I'm like, why am I not a good fit? I'm more qualified than everybody that you already hired. Like, what is happening here? But there was no reason to give an explanation because again, power trumps everything. So they have power. It's their institution. So basically they were saying because I said so. Like just like your mama, when you'd argue with your mama and you start winning the argument because your mama makes you think that she's actually going to let you debate her. And then when she realizes she's losing the argument, she goes to the trump card. The trump card is, well, because I said so. I don't have to explain anymore because I got the power and you don't. So really, to some extent, if you don't build your own institutions, if black people are not, those of us who are not committed to just taking the time, putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, and the years of doing the incredibly non-cool job of building an institution. Like you can't when you build that little raggedy business, you're not gonna feel lit. You can't go out and just be in Gucci all the time. You're not gonna be looking fly like your friend who got the fancy job. Your life is not easy. It's gonna be hard. If we don't have people willing to do that work to build the infrastructure, then we're always going to be in this vulnerable situation where we're trying to operate in a space that was not designed for us.